Hi, my name is Erin Geaney, and I'm a developer for Visual Studio Team Foundation Server. So today I'm going to talk about our Power Toys.
Great, that's exciting. So what exactly is a Power Toy?
So a Power Toy is a tool that we're able to release out of cycle. They provide real customer value, and we're able to release them about quarterly. And we're because it's an off-band cycle, we're able to have a quicker turnaround time. We skip some things such as localization. Our setup is much simpler. There's no upgrade support. If there's some new Power Toy, you simply uninstall the current Power Toy and reinstall the new ones.
Okay. So this means that you don't have to wait for the next version of Team Foundation Server to. That's what you mean by out of cycle, right? You can ship features kind of in between major releases to get more functionality out to customers' hands?
Yes, exactly. They're released web release, so they're simply downloaded by the customer, and they're purely add-on. They don't change the current shipping bits. So that decreases the risk, which is why we're able to shorten the testing cycle. We're able to what we call bug bash it instead of, which means we just hammer on the actual software instead of automated testing for everything.
Okay. So this is something that you eventually want to get into the product in a regular release cycle, is that right?
Many of the Power Toys will get put into a regular release once we ship the next version. And some Power Toys, such as the MSSCCI provider, we actually were able to put some official support on, so we have customer service will actually support that now.
And what is the MSSCCI provider?
That provider is it's able to integrate other versions of Visual Studio, like Visual Studio 2003 and 2002, into Team Foundation.
Oh, fantastic! So even though those tools obviously aren't necessarily aware of Team Foundation Server because they were shipped well before Team Foundation Server, I can now continue to develop my legacy applications using those products with this MSDN provider, right? Right.
So we don't need to. Customers don't need to have every client on 2005.
Great. Sounds good. Well, what are you going to show us here today?
I'm going to do a couple demos. The first one, this Power Toys release was actually released. It was a compilation of some toys that were already released, and the previous ones were released as part of the Team Foundation SDK. So this is its own release that's compiled. So there's some new toys in here and some existing ones.
Okay. And if customers want to download this, where do they go?
If you go to Microsoft.com and just search for Team Foundation Power Toys, it'll take you right there.
Great. Fantastic.
Okay. So first, I'm going to show there's a couple Power Toys that actually integrate into the Visual Studio IDE, and there are other ones that are simply in the command line. So the first one I'm going to show is in the IDE. So one Power Toy is Annotate. And what this will do is it'll open up your source code and anything in source control, and it'll actually have who changed it, what the date was for each line on the file.
Oh, I see. So over here on the left-hand side, I can see that this is a section of code that you changed on the 22nd.
Right.
And what is that number? Is that the change set?
The number is the change set associated with it.
Great.
And so you can see the comments associated with it as well.
What happens if you click? I saw that that's a hyperlink.
It will open up the change set details.
Oh, as expected. Great.
Yep. So you can get to it. One thing, just to step back, all of the Power Toys you can get to through the options, and you can turn them on and off. So this is more important for tree difference, which I'll show right now. But when you do a compare, it will show the tree difference. If you want to turn that off, you can turn that off. So
okay.
Just set it to false.
Okay.
So the next one, here's an example of when you do a compare. Now that it's installed, it'll actually have our TreeDiff. So what this has is on the left side, you have all of the items on the server and all your local items. As you can see, if we do a build, a lot of things are built that are not actually part of source control. And then there's new items that are added that are they're actually added to source control but haven't been checked in yet. So you can see all this information. If you have a changed file, you can actually see the diff directly through here. You can add the file to source control directly through this UI. So that is the TreeDiff.
So let me make sure I got this straight. So over on the left-hand side, that's your workspace on the server, right?
Exactly.
Okay, and then on the right-hand side, these are all the local items.
Right.
And I see some are green and some are black. What's the difference there?
The green are things that are on your server that are on your local system that have not been added to source control.
I see.
So they're sitting there. So if you do a build and you create an executable, you have your debug files or your assemblies. These are all on your local system, but they're not in source control.
Okay.
So those are listed there, and if you wanted to add them to source control, you can just go to add file.
Okay, so this would be important because if I'm starting to check in my code and I notice that there's a file that other people on my team might need, this is a really helpful way of actually laying that out for me, right?
Right. You can even, if you copy and paste into your workspace, you open up TreeDiff and you have a bunch of new files. This is a new one I added, program copy. So you could add this to source control if you have a new CS file.
Great.
This is differentiated from ones that have been added already to source control. Like this is a text document, and that's been added to source control, so that's why this one is black.
Okay.
So once I do a check-in, this would actually be added to source control.
So this is all functionality that people can get to already just by using Solution Explorer, but this is just another view to help you track down which items you may or may not have added to source control.
Right. It's another way to see it, and it's everything compiled together as one.
Great.
So
all right. What else do you have for us?
Next, I will show some command line tools. So the first thing, so when you install the TFPT is the executable for PowerToys, and this is actually it's in program files. There's a Team Foundation PowerToys directory, and TFPT, it'll list all of the different commands that you can do. These are all the different command line options. So the first one I'm going to do is show the history of one of our files. So TFPT and then history and the file. So this shows the history, the different change sets, and the comments for them and what was changed on it.
Great.
So that can now be done through the command line. The next one is being able to do annotate through the command line. Now this view is slightly different than the one that we saw in the Visual Studio IDE. So if you see here, you can click on any of the sections. These are all annotated with the different change sets. So say I come here to change set 8, it'll give the information for change set 8. Something like this I actually have associated with the work item. So that work item is listed there, we have the comments, and so you can actually go through each different change set and see what was changed at what time based on what was put in there.
Great.
So it's the same functionality, the view is slightly different as doing it through the Visual Studio IDE. The next PowerToy I'm going to show you is the Get CS, which is to get a previous change set. So one way to do this, so you can actually give it a change set number. So I do change set 6, if you look above change set 6 on the actual program.cs, we added a new function.
Okay.
So I can go to that, and it'll actually replace your current version on your only locally with this new one. So now if I do a TreeDiff, you can see that program CS is actually different than what's on the server.
There it is.
So you can do a compare directly through this, and you can see what's different because we jump back to the version from change list 6. And this is the same view that you saw through the Visual Studio IDE.
That's great. So what should customers do if they're having if they have questions about how to use these PowerToys, or if they have feedback? I know that part of this PowerToys release is to get some feedback about using these PowerToys, so that when we ultimately productize some of this functionality in future versions, it's a good test bed for us to find out what customers like and don't like about it. So how can they get in touch with someone like you that's on the Team Foundation team that's looking for this feedback?
First of all, there are several forums on it. Brian Harry's been writing about PowerToys and has actually been soliciting feedback for it on his blog. And also there is a forum directly for PowerToys on the Visual Studio Team System right off that forum.
Okay.
So, and then the forums, the developers on our team regularly look at them and respond and are able to get direct contact with the customers.
Great. What's your favorite PowerToy?
I like the TreeDiff.
Yeah?
Yeah, you can directly see the differences in all the files. You can add them to source control, and everything is compiled right there. So I definitely like the TreeDiff.
Cool. Do you have anything else for us here?
I have, quickly, I'm going to show so this has kind of been based on a lot of source control information. We also have a couple power toys that are able to, in the command line, be able to access work items. So I wanted to show a couple of those work items. So first one is to do a query. So if I give my project and just type it.
Okay, so you're piping it into a file.
I'm piping it into query.txt, yeah, just so it's more readable. And then you can see it'll able to look at all the work items that returned from the query in tab delimited, and be able to see all of your work items for a stored query.
Okay.
There are other options for this I'd like to show. So you can output in several different formats. You can output it in XML. You can decide what type of information you want included on it. As I showed, I did a stored query, but you can also directly either have a work item query file or actually directly input the work item query directly into the command line.
What is a work item query file?
Oh, it's a file that lists the, you can kind of do a demo. If you create a new query, so you have my queries and you add a query, then you can save it into a WIQ file.
Oh, I see.
So you can save it that way. You can pass between people. You can pass the file, so that's where it's actually stored.
So it doesn't have to be stored on the server per
Right.
se. You can actually store it just in a separate one-off file.
Exactly, and then someone has a different project or a different query, they can email it to you or send it to you, and you could be able to directly get that query.
Great, great. So I have to ask, a lot of these power toys that you're showing, they seem to surface a lot of command line functionality. Do you
Right.
find a lot of developers using this from the command line, or is it really for scripting and building their own custom applications?
A lot of it is for being scriptable, being able to, you're working in a code review, you create a whole list of new work items, and you want to be able to put all these new work items in without manually going through them. One way to do it is be able to script it.
Great. And presumably a lot of this functionality is available even on a machine without Visual Studio installed, right? You can
Right.
just install the power toy and connect to the server.
Well, a lot of them you still need you do need the Team Foundation client on the system because it's using a lot of the same assemblies.
Oh, okay.
So that is a prerequisite for it.
So Team Explorer.
Right.
But that's,
Right. You
a
don't need
couple
the rest
hundred
of,
megs as opposed to a couple gigs, right?
Instead
Okay.
of having instead of having full Visual Studio. Correct.
Great, fantastic.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, this is actually in this system. I don't have full Visual Studio. I just have the Team Foundation client on it
Okay.
when I was demoing.
Great. Anything else for us today?
I think that about covers. It's a couple of the power toys and kind of gives a good example of what we have out there.
That's great. I think customers are really going to like this. So go get those power toys. They're out on MSDN. And if you have feedback, get in touch with Erin and Brian, Harry, and everyone else on the forums. All right. Thanks, Erin.
Okay, great. Thank you.